Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yed Characharam Tatparam Darshidam Yed Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjanam Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yed Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahm Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Today, can you hear me at the back, or the rain is spoiling spot? You can. Okay, good. So, yesterday we had a lovely satsang. Only yesterday, right? Seems so far off. So, we had a nice discussion, satsang, on the meaning of yoga and Ashtanga yoga and things, so on and so forth. Basically, it was, I would say, theoretical. The theory of what meditation is and what, not meditation, but yoga is, and Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and so on and so forth. So today, being the last day here, last day for me and for you in this place, not the last day. Being that, we are, I want to give you something which you can practice, which is practical, because it's like somebody came, talked, and went home. And you went home and forgot all about it. I forgot all about it, and that's the end of it. Then you wait again for the next satsang. Instead of that, I thought, it's a practical world now. I thought I'll leave something with you, which if you're willing to practice, you can practice regularly. If you're practicing something else, you can add that, or you can practice this if you're practicing nothing at all, but something needs to be done. There's no point in just discussing the theory. Something needs to be done, at least for 15 minutes to half an hour every day. I know there are many friends of ours who have studied various methods of meditation from me, and who claim to be old friends who have not meditated for 10 minutes every day. I know. I think the new ones may pick up, hopefully. Because here the proof of the pudding is in the eating it, not in the ornamentations and theories, so on. So first let me start with something which gives a clue as to what we are trying to connect with. Well, we meditate, but what are we trying to connect with? So I'm going to give you a little clue on that, if you don't know already. If you had attended the satsang yesterday noon at her house, you probably know what we are trying to connect with. But I'm going to look at it in a little different way today. Now, please listen to me. From the side you can listen to the rain, but just visualize, imagine somebody on the street. You're standing on the street somewhere and looking at the footpath, at the pavement, and just below the pavement on the main street, you see somebody walking slowly along. Very old and looking very weak, with a bundle of clothes on his shoulders. You think that he's some kind of a beggar, and he looks so weak. He's kind of breathing hard and trudging along very slowly, and you think next minute this guy might fall down and die. That's the situation. Now imagine a situation where a car or a bus comes so close to him, suddenly the driver realizes, oh, there's a man here. And then he brakes with all the screeching and the horn and the whole thing, which happens when you brake. I bet 9 times out of 10, This poor man who you thought couldn't move another inch, he may fall down and die, might have cleared all long jump records if you saw the bus coming. Now the question is, how did he do it? Somebody who, looking at from outside, you think cannot move another 2 steps, looks so weak and looks so vulnerable. What happened to him when he suddenly faced the danger of a car screeching and stopping before him? How did he clear the long jump record? Maybe this end of the road to the other. What happened? Well, there are many ways of looking. One is that suddenly faced with the accident, he jumped. How? Where did the energy come from? You would have thought he was going to die. The other medical or biological explanations that in the brain there is a section of the brain called the limbic system inside. Not here, inside. Now the limbic system is there to alert you and to make you react when there is a sudden threat to your life. It's built in. So the limbic system set into action and got him out. But how did he get energy to do that? Now again there is a biological explanation, which is that suddenly a big amount of adrenaline was pumped into his system, with the switch being in the limbic system, and the adrenaline being something that gives you energy temporarily at least, made him jump. Now these are chemical biological explanations. I'm going to the yogic explanation or the Vedantic explanation, if you want to describe it that way. The fact is, this man whose thought process, because of his past experiences till now, made him think that, well, I'm old, I'm weak, I can't move, I'm going to fall down and die, and so on, which is constantly going on in his mind. At that particular time of danger, when the limbic system set things into operation, which is our old brain, the old reptilian brain that we still have, what happened was he had no time to think. He had no time to think and condition himself that he cannot do it. Watch carefully. Thought is a powerful weapon, okay? Agreed. But it can be limiting and it can be unconditioning, both. In this case, in his normal mode of existence, normal mode of thinking, he puts 2 and 2 together very logically. I was sick in the hospital 6 months ago. I'm weak in my legs, I can't jump, and so on. In that particular moment when the switch was on, he didn't have time to think and condition himself to say that I cannot do it. So we are saying that thought can condition yourself and say that you can't do something. Thought can also decondition and say, yes, I can do it. Now, in that, I'm not saying you shouldn't think, okay, you should. Don't put your thinking faculties in cold storage. Very dangerous, especially when there are gurus roaming around. And all our energy is that which is beyond thought. So here, for a split second to protect the body, there was an energy that comes from beyond ordinary thought. It just says jump and jump. Now the yogis say that this energy, which accidentally was triggered off in this case, can be tapped systematically and utilized for your life. 1, to uncondition your mind and make it more expansive. And 2, to have access to infinite modes of energy. So, it's competing with it. wait for 2 minutes. Now, that energy or that consciousness which acts when you are unconditioned by your thought, which is I'm this body, I cannot do this, I'm a man, I'm a woman, and so on, or I'm a child, or I'm an old person. If that thought can be unconditioned, at least set at rest for a while, then it's possible to access the source of all energy that's in us, which fortunately happens to be a blissful energy and not a painful energy. So, you can do nothing about the rain, right? As you can do nothing much about happiness or sorrow. From ancient times, for thousands of years, people in the East and the West, especially in the East, because in the East people were more concerned with going into the inside things rather than the outside. So they have discovered that there is this essence of all energy and unconditioned consciousness and bliss, which is in all of us in the form of a little spark inside our being, in the core of our being. The prerequisite for touching that is that you decondition yourself from thinking that I am limited. I am this body, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. So that deconditioning process on one side is philosophical, and on the other is practical. Practical ways of how to keep your limiting thoughts in abeyance, at least for a while, and gradually increase the timing of that so that you are most of the time in that unconditioned, blissful, super energy state. So this is the whole practice of sadhana, which we call sadhana, is how to zero in, how to go into the essence of this being, which is not anywhere outside but right inside us. And equally for all, whether we have discovered it or not. That's a different matter. Now, if we feel that there has to be a practical way of doing it, today's world, you cannot go into a cave and sit somewhere. It's not going to work. We wanted to go somewhere, but I must tell you this very interesting thing. When I was young and I was in Rishikesh, in the foothills of the Himalaya, there was this man who came to me and said, I'm fed up of Rishikesh. I said, why? But I have just come here. He said, no, I'm fed up. There's too many ashrams, and too many sadhus, and too many people, and too many pilgrims, and too much noise. I said, so what are you going to do? I was sitting near the river, near the Ganga. I said, I thought it was better than Delhi. He said, yeah, but I don't like it. I'm a man who loves solitude. So I said, oh, where are you going? He said, near Lakshman Jhula, I heard there's a cave. So I'll go there and sit and meditate. I said, okay, God be with you. But come back and tell me if something happened. So I was also, I had not met Babaji then, my master Babaji. So I said, okay. So he went. And then 3 days later, I was sitting on the banks of the Ganga. I saw him back walking around. I said, hey, what happened? He said, what shall I tell you? I went there and sat in the cave. 2 days I sat. It was very nice. Then, of course, there were mosquitoes. I said, okay. And then what happened? And then one day I thought I was in deep meditation, and then I opened my eyes. And there was an extraterrestrial standing in front of me. I said, wow, this is great. And did he teach you anything? He said, hey, just stop, let me explain. I said, okay. He said, it was not an extraterrestrial. It was a man from the municipality who had come to spray for mosquitoes. This is our situation. So don't ever think you can go to the caves and sit down. It doesn't work. However, if you can make your own house, one room in your house, into your own private cave, in summer you can put on the AC, and in winter you can cover yourself with a blanket. So you have your own cave. Nobody is going to spray, and nobody is going to come and disturb you. And nobody is going to come and say, oh, you should join this ashram and become a member and so on. You're free. So if you find a place like that, then you can start your practice. Now, there are two parts to the practice. One is, I'm saying from my experience of whatever I practice. I'm not going to initiate anybody now into Kriya Yoga, nothing like that. I'm just giving you a general understanding of the practice. Not only general, but a practical understanding. Now, what I should keep in mind is that there are several people who think in different ways. There are some people who would like to conceive of that supreme energy as a God with a form. Okay, fine. So I'll have to deal with this one by one. And then there are others who would like to think of it as an energy, which is, in her language, shunya, and so on. So, different ways of looking at it. There are very good people who are Christians who would like to think of the manifestation of supreme energy as Jesus Christ. Okay, no harm. And among the Hindus, there are people who would like to think, here we have 33 crores gods. You might want to think of God as Devi or Shakti or Ganesh, it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is there are different modes or different ways in which people look at divinity. And some think of it as an all-pervading supreme reality, Brahman. Okay. So there are two things here. One is, you can't say that this is all-pervading, unconditioned, free, and if I think about it, I'll reach there. Not possible. Yeah, you should think about it, of course. But you need to find out some way by which, yesterday we were talking about dharana, dhyana and samadhi, the three last parts of Ashtanga Yoga. So you need to figure out how to actually fix your attention on this, not just say that. It's actually very dangerous to keep saying, I am the Brahman. The ego becomes very strong. You need to say, I am not this, but maybe when everything ends, there is the Brahman. That is a better way of saying it. If I say, I am the Brahman, I don't even bend my head. Not a good idea. Humility is essential. Affection is essential. Fellow human beings should be given value. And so, anyway. So, first thing I would suggest is set apart some time in your daily routine where you can actually sit by yourself and practice. This is very important. I know there are some people who think that to sit and try to meditate itself is a conditioning and so on. Forget that. Put it on your bookshelf. But you need to have some time to sit down. You need to have a fixed time if possible, because everything comes through habit. You should break a habit, but that comes later. But But you need to develop something to break it, right? Somebody is a classical dancer, and people say, oh, she's wonderful, how nicely she innovates. But to innovate, she should know first what classical dance is. Simply if I go on the stage and do this, that is not an innovation. Right? So therefore, some structure is necessary to start with, at least, before you break the structures. So to start. So first, from my experience, fix a time. And don't budge from that time. Don't say, oh, this morning, no, that's the time I have to take the dog out for a walk. Now change your timing for the dog or change your time for meditation. One of these. So, I also have dogs, I take them for a walk, it doesn't mean anything. So, fix your attention, fix a time, earlier the better. Earlier in the morning, better, because things haven't started yet, except that the birds are out. which is nice. When you meditate and when you hear the birds chirping, don't try to cut them off. They're part of the whole thing. You and they are not so different. Except that the early bird gets the first worm, you know that? And the child asked the teacher, but who asked the worm to get up so early? So get up early in the morning is a very good time to sit down. Beautiful time. When everything is still quiet and the energies are still not been dissipated by activities, right? So find the time. I'm not saying you should wake up at 3 o'clock and sit, but according to tradition, Brahma Muhurta, a beautiful time for meditation, starts at 3:30. Don't try that, because you go to the office and sleep. So let's have a reasonable time, some time when the day is slowly emerging from the night, that kind of time. And choose a place where there's not much noise, not much disturbance. You tell your relatives, please, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes. Don't disturb me. Let me sit down. And then, for those who seriously want to meditate, I suggest that you have a set of clothes which you use only for your meditation. The reason is, whatever you wear carries your traces in it. And whatever you do wearing a set of clothes, the clothes also carry a trace of what your mind or your actions. Like if if you're somebody who works in a mechanical shop, machine shop, you have your overalls, and then you don't wear them and sit for meditation. When you sit, you would feel like, you know what I mean? It's all associated. Whether it's vibration or association, we won't go into that, but it is. So therefore, have a clean set of clothes. They need not be fashionable. Nobody is going to come in and see. So have something comfortable, important. It's so difficult to wear tight jeans and sit, especially if you want to sit cross-legged. It's going to be very difficult. So wear something comfortable. I'm nothing against jeans. You can wear them on other times, but okay. So then, and let it be clean. Cleanliness is important. Point one, get up in the morning a little earlier than before. Have a set of clothes. And these are not the most important points, but if you start, if you are a beginner, they help. If not, it's okay. And then have an asana. When you say asana, a seat. It could be a rug, a small carpet, rug, or anything you like, but keep it to yourself and don't let somebody else use it. Don't let the dog sit on it, or you know what I mean, or things like that. When you use it and then you roll it up and put it away. Okay? So this is very simple. These are things we can manage. I'm sure they're very simple. Right? And then, as I said, find a place where nobody disturbs you much. Having settled all this, now sit down and decide in which way or in which form or in the formless or what way you would like to, in what mode would you like to get in touch with that energy inside you. Once you have decided on that, then the first thing you should do to start with is to actually bow down. There's nothing wrong in bowing down. You're not bowing down to anybody, okay? You're bowing down to the thin air. So bow down, because some people say, I don't want to bow down to anybody. Okay, fine. There's nobody in the room. So bow down. Touch your forehead to the ground. Ground it properly. And first, be thankful to your existence on this earth. That you have food, you have clothes, you have a place to stay, and you have a family, or you don't have a family. Both are good. Now, if you say thank you that I don't have a family, I'm free, or you can say thank you, I have an understanding family. Either way. And then what I mean is be thankful for this earth, to this earth for providing everything that you have. It's important. So bow down first and say that. Touch your forehead to the ground and say, you don't have to use Sanskrit, you can say thank you, no problem. God is a linguist. Okay. Then, otherwise it would be unfair, right? If the Chinese bow down and say Chinese, he should be able to understand. So anyway, so then after bowing down, straighten up and sit in a comfortable position. Now here, when you say comfortable position, for different people, different postures are comfortable. For me, to sit cross-legged is comfortable. Traditionally, according to Yoga Shastra, cross-legged position is very good for meditation. There are many reasons for that. We may not go into everything, but I can say that it is something to do with your energy channels in your system, which are called Ida, Pingala and Shushumna. And sitting cross-legged helps to adjust the energy levels, the prana and apana that flows through the nadis, which are called the channels inside. So it's nice to sit, but be perfectly balanced and erect. When you say erect, you don't have to be tense like that, but just don't slack. Don't just, kind of sit as if you're sick. Sit properly, alert, but relaxed and comfortable. Well, if you can't sit cross-legged, sit in a chair. I mean, what can you do? Doesn't matter. Sit in a chair. At least keep one foot up if possible, like Dakshinamurti. And then the posture is over now. Now, while sitting in the posture, we have different methods of meditation in which the body has to be tensed a little bit before it can be allowed to relax. If you don't tense it, there's no way you can relax it. So we do something called Mahamudra. You don't have to worry about that. All you do is, suppose you're sitting cross-legged, bend down and holding your hands on your knees, try to touch the floor with your head, with your forehead. Hold it there and then straighten up again. Do this a couple of times so that your whole system is kind of nicely stretched. And then come back to normal. If you do 3-4 times of this bending down, you will realize that when you sit down, then you are more relaxed. The relief of not bending and sitting, and then sit in a comfortable posture. Now, there is a very simple way of bringing your mind from outward distractions and turning it inside. Very simple, which anyone can practice no matter what way you look at divinity. With form, without form. It even doesn't depend on what religion you practice. Anybody can do this. And this is to give total attention to your breathing. Everybody has breath, right? And nobody who doesn't have breath. It's a common factor for everyone. So, prana is there for everybody. The Gita says, prana, apana, samayukta. How to bring the prana and the apana, which means the upper breath and the lower breath, together into balance. Now this technique, this method I'm going to give you, free, okay? You don't have your checkbooks, I'm sure. So this method I'm going to give you, because now is a fashion, if you don't pay, then you don't get. Doesn't apply here. So sit down and then take a deep breath. How do I take a deep breath? Now there are different ways of breathing. We are looking at the yogic breath. The yogic breath is not a surface breathing like screwing up your nose. No. The yogic breath is to do this. Which means what? It's in yogic terminology, it's called Ujjayi. Because the breathing is not so much through this, but through here. How? Suppose I open my mouth and do. Instead of this, I'm doing the same thing, but my mouth is closed. How do I do that? I think it's clear, right? You don't have to do The same process with your mouth closed. Like, of course, the air is going in through the nostrils, but it's going in a deep manner, touching your throat centers. So deep. So you do. Now, when you do this, when you inhale, it would be nice if in your mind, mentally, either you chant mentally, okay? You can't breathe in and at the same time chant. So mentally, the sound of hum. They hum, I hum. So chant this, the sound of hum, or imagine, visualize that when you're inhaling, the inhalation is hum. Actually, it's very easy to hear. It actually sounds somewhat like hum. So hum. And take a deep breath. Don't take breath in jerks like that, but very slow. Okay, hold your breath for half a minute and then start exhaling. Now there are two ways of doing this. You can either exhale with a deep, again like, or you can open your mouth slightly and do. Yeah. When you breathe out, when you exhale, imagine that you are chanting the sound of sa. Sa or sa, saw or whatever you want. SAW. So, when you breathe in, it's hum. Breathe out. This is a specific exercise. You may not have come across this in yogic literature hitherto. When you're tired, what do you do when you're very tired? You run and walk and you come and sit down. What do you do? Automatically there is a response. It clears all the carbon dioxide. So, do this deliberately. Breathe in, hum, hold it for half a minute. Don't stress. And then, if you don't want to do it with the mouth, you can just do. Allow it to go and visualize, think that you are chanting sa along with that. Sa. So it's hum, interval, sa. Hum, interval, sa. So do this at least, I don't want you to count because then your mind would go into that like, oh, maybe I didn't do enough, or maybe. So just do it for 10 minutes. Don't worry about it. Can you please listen? Don't worry about the stomach and anything. Just listen. Just take the breath in and breath out and hold the breath for some time. Don't even worry where it goes or how it goes. What happens when you read too much, you see. So then take it in. Hold your breath for half a minute. Breathe out and chant the sound of saw. So it is hum and it is saw. Hum, saw. Do that for 10 full minutes. Keep a little timer or watch or something. 10 minutes. And then at the end of 10 minutes, you will find out for yourself that things have calmed down. You're not too distracted outside. Your mind is kind of enjoying itself in that hum, saw sound. And in that, at that point, when the mind is calm, there are a couple of things you can do depending on your orientation. Those who think of the divine in any form can at that point visualize the form inside the heart. Okay, in whichever way you want. Suppose you like to think of the divine as Shiva, let's say. Then you think of a linga, white or black linga inside your heart, and then chant the mantra. Now your hum saw is over. Forget it. Chant the mantra which is suitable for that. Like if it is Shiva, it's Om Namah Shivaya. Well, if nothing, just chant the sound of Om Om in a way which I'm going to demonstrate to you. We call it the Brahmari. Brahmari means a bumblebee. You know the bumblebee that comes near your window sometimes and so what you do is there are two things. Either visualize your God as you want in your heart and chant the mantra, or if you say I want to be beyond forms, just relax and let it be and just watch your mind. Along with this watching, chant the sound of Om. How do you chant the sound of Om? Actually close your ears. Now you can cut off the rain sound by closing it. Use your thumbs, close your ears, and then chant Om with more stress on the last sound, which is Ma. Om. Allow that sound to vibrate in your head. Again, you can't do it at one breath. So again you can keep your hand, but again take a deep breath and start again. When you do this, while you hear the sound vibrating inside the Brahmari, fix your attention in the middle of your forehead. How do you fix? You have nails, right? Knock a few times. Knock, and it shall be opened unto thee. Knock a bit. And then fix your attention there and make the sound of the last part of Om vibrate it inside your head. And continue to do that for 5 minutes. So you have done 10 minutes of Hang Saw, and you've done 5 minutes of vibrating the sound inside. Now, drop everything. No Brahmari, no Om, no Hang Saw, nothing, just sit quiet. And you sit quiet with this understanding that when everything is still, the essence of your consciousness is the only thing that is, which is your true ID. With this in mind, sit quietly. At this point, if you hear the rain or if you hear the birds, don't try to cut it out. It's all one. Not part of us. There is no difference. We have learned to differentiate ourselves and make our own little time and space, but actually it's limitless. So just sit quietly. Sit as long as you want, because if you follow all the practices carefully, you will find that when you sit down quietly, you're actually enjoying something wonderful inside. Enjoy it as long as you want, or as long as you can. And then again, bend down, touch your forehead to the ground and say thank you. We chant Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. You can just chant, you can just say thank you. This is something which you can all together do 15 minutes a day. It's not a tall order, I think, if you really want to do it. And as I said before the day starts, for some reason, if you cannot do it in the morning, come back and do it before you go to sleep. As long as, have an early dinner and don't keep your stomach loaded while you practice. That's about all the safety that's required. If you have had a meal, leave an hour or hour and a half and then do your stuff. And if you had, for some chance, had a little bit of alcohol, don't do it that evening. Do it the next day morning when you are free of it. It happens nowadays. Doctor might ask you to have a glass of wine because of your heart and so on. Except that it doesn't stop at 1. It becomes 2 and 3. After some time you cannot meditate. So here, till yesterday I was talking theory, and now I've given you something nice to do. Something that is practical, and you It has no denomination, so you don't have to convert into this or that. You can do it whatever you do, still, wherever you are. That clear? Yeah. Now, do you want to practice for 10 minutes before we start? Go to the next, whatever. Shall we sit down and practice for a while? No? Yes? Okay. Now, what I am going to do is sitting here, first we bow down and you can say Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha, not this, the Supreme Guru, God Himself. Or you can just bow down and say thank you, help me to meditate, whichever way you want. Together. Back to normal. Can we repeat this 3 times? Okay. Now, what did I say next? So take a deep breath, like open deep breath. No need, when I say deep breath, don't make like that. Just relax. Chant hum when you breathe in. Hold for half a minute. Exhale and chant saw. Again inhale. Now continue on your own. I'll wake you up. Okay. For today this is enough, and when you go home you can do more. Now do the Brahmari, which you close your ears and hum, and then again keep humming for some time. Okay. You can also do the Brahmari without closing your ears. You try it first and let it move inside, and then just do Om. Okay. Now just sit quietly, eyes closed, and do nothing in particular. Watch. Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay. So now we bow down and say thanks. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace. I think this is very easy to do. Huh? You can add to your routine, or you can do it yourself if you have no routine. Okay. Now, any questions and clarifications on this or other matters?
Why can't you do it after alcohol?
Say that again.
Why shouldn't you do it after alcohol?
Because alcohol already messes you up, and this will mess you up more. Sorry. What I mean is, see, what we are aiming at is to have clarity, right? And we know that alcohol paralyzes the central nervous system. So there cannot be clarity. We are not seeking a stupor. Rather, we are seeking a calm, tranquility, and clarity. So this interferes with it in some way. There is no harm in having a drink, but don't do your kriya after that. Which doesn't mean you should drink in the morning if you want to do in the evening. In fact, I personally think that a glass of wine does no harm to anybody. First of all, it's vegetarian. You don't kill any animals, but you have to be careful because it is addictive. This is one of the problems. Then you can't do without it. And no human being should be dependent on anything. I shouldn't say I can't do without it. If you can still carry on without being dependent, great. But people start that way and then they get dependent. That's the only reason. I don't think, I know wonderful people who have a drink every day. They're not bad people. We cannot say, oh, these fellows are bad because haram. There's no sense in that, because I also know people who don't drink but who are terrible fellows. So what do you do? It's not like that. But for our own good, it's better to keep a control, avoid if possible. The other thing is, when we drink that which is inside, we don't need drink outside. There is an intoxication which can be produced within us, which is very healthy, not addictive, good for the liver. So, somebody said, is life worth living? They said, depends on the liver. So, this is the thing. That's what I mean. And our good friend Adolf Hitler was a complete vegetarian. He didn't even eat eggs. How many people went to the gas chamber? No?
But the specialty of the Agnya Chakra, between the eyebrows.
Yes? No, we have to go carefully. According to yoga, the science of yoga, and also the science of Tantra, which are interlinked. When I say Tantra, don't think of orgies in the cremation grounds. It's got a bad name, but it's not like that. Anyway, so between yoga and Tantra, if you want to see the real link between yoga and Tantra, then there is a beautiful text, fortunately translated by an Englishman called Sat Chakra Nirupana. Sir John Woodroffe, who was justice in the Calcutta High Court during the British time, he got so interested that he left his judiciary and wandered with the tantrics for some time and learned many things. And he wrote this wonderful book called, the Sanskrit equivalent from which he translated it is called Sat Chakra Nirupana. The English title he gave to the book was Serpent Power, and he wrote under the pen name of Arthur Avalon. So why I am saying this is, so according to this Sat Chakra Nirupana and the different systems of energy in the human body, according to yoga and Tantra, there are 7 centers in the human system, starting with the bottom of the spine, which is called the Mooladhara. Now the word Mooladhara means root foundation, if you translate it literally. And from there, the next one is between the navel and the lowest chakra center. It's called the Swadhisthana. We don't have to remember. And then there is the Manipura, which is in the navel. And then there is the Anahat, which is in the center of the chest. And then there is the Vishuddha, which is in the throat. And then there is the Ajna, which I'm coming to this. Ajna, which is here between the eyebrows, Bhru Madhya, it's called. And then there is the Sahasrara, which is on the top. Top meaning in this area. So, the whole theory of Tantra and Yoga is that energy operates in all human beings, but basically on the gross level. When the energies of the system, this energy is also considered a female energy, Shakti. Shakti has always been traditionally female in India. Okay. Now this energy, when it acts in the lowest center, that's more than enough for our daily existence, for food, for sex, for everything. When for some people, when the energy is very active in the Mooladhara, they're highly sexual. It's the same libido, the same energy which is out there. And so it's in the gross level there. So the tattva, or the, what do you call for tattva? Huh? Element, yeah. The tattva, let me explain. For the energy, while it is at the lowest center, is called Prithvi, which means earth. I think translated properly it would mean solid. Solid. And then from that level, the energy is turned subtler and subtler and subtler. And when it ascends to the next center, it's the Apas Tattva, which means from solid to liquid. But it's just a symbol to show that it's from gross to subtle, liquid. And then when it comes here, the Manipura, it's fire. The element is Agni, the fire. Which means then when this liquid is then heated, then it becomes vapor. So the next tattva is Vayu. These are all symbolic, okay? There is no Vayu here. I mean, it's which means our awareness is being lifted from the gross to the subtler and subtler and subtler. And then when it reaches the Ajna Chakra, this is the turning point from where the gross energies are, the subtle energies take over, and the gross energies become lesser and lesser, grosser energies. So this is an important center. It's also an important center because according to yogic anatomy physiology, there are three nadis, which are the Ida, the Pingala, and the Shushumna in the center. So the exact point inside, not here, where the Ida and the Pingala cross each other and go in opposite directions to the left and the right brains, is the Ajna Chakra. So the Ajna Chakra is an important center which, if you meditate upon, you go deeper in, and it is actually located. If you draw a line inside from here, it will probably touch the pineal gland or the pituitary area, and then go into the limbic system and come out. So it's an important center which, when activated, one ascends from the lower to the higher. Even in the Gita, when Krishna talks about Dhyana Yoga, he says, put your attention between the eyebrows. But there is also another important center, which is the heart. When I say heart, it's not the organ that pumps blood, the core of your emotions. When you get emotional, you usually feel it here, you don't feel it here. See? So these two centers are very important from the yogic point.
Plasticity, connection between the energy here and plasticity, coercivity, because of that,
Yeah.
completely different.
No, they're different. Completely. Denise. Your daughter didn't come?
So I have a question.
Yes, please.
Sometimes it is very difficult to empty the mind of all thoughts, particularly if you are doing it at the end of the day when you are trying to relax before you go to bed, which is when I try to do it. But if you have had an instance or a particular stress in your life, it is very hard to empty. So do you let the thoughts come?
Let the what?
Do you let the thoughts come, or do you try to block them out?
It depends on the person. These are very individual things. It's difficult to empty the mind of thoughts like that, because the mind cannot stay empty. It is like nature. Nature cannot bear to have a vacuum. Immediately air rushes in. It's the same thing with the mind. It cannot, if you try to keep it blank, more thoughts will come in. It's normal, it's not. So therefore, the idea is, instead of that, engage your mind in some activity within, which is not connected to any external activity. So for some time, the mind then gets systematically connected into a pattern of following something that's happening inside, which is the breath. So for some time you are free of disturbing thoughts, because the only thought is your breath, right? So keep it there. As you progress, you will see that one day, watching your breath, everything is fine, and then you let go that also. What I'm saying is, if you keep cutting all the thoughts separately, they keep sprouting like grass. When you go to the core and then suddenly take it off, then you might one day experience that disturbance-less state. So first start by fixing your attention on some action internally, because the mind refuses to keep quiet without any action. So give it the action of the breath. You know what I mean? So it's completely engaged in that, like a routine. And then while it's there, it's calm, because there is no time or no occasion for it to get caught up outside. So it's here. As you go on doing that for a long time, one day you let go of that, but not before that. And then there's something tremendous happening. which is beyond our understanding, because it's not part of conditioned thought. But to attempt to reach there while your mind is still disturbed is not possible. That's it. I think you need practice, but then as you practice, you should also, it shouldn't be that it becomes a mere ritual. That's also, we have to watch out on that. I'm doing everything, but I'm watching, but my mind is this, so you have to bring it back again and again. But what happens is when the breath becomes quiet and systematic and everything is still, then there's something which you begin to enjoy inside. When this happens, then you're done. Then you need not have to worry too much about it. You know why the mind goes? Because it is seeking enjoyment outside. If you give it something, if you give it honey to suck here, then it will come back here. Or what is that other thing that comes, which you put on pancakes? Maple syrup. The only thing I carry from the United States when I go back is maple syrup. What? Huh?
Vegemite.
What is that?
You take Vegemite.
What that? What's that?
Vegemite.
Vegemite? It's kind of maple syrup?
Can I have one more question to you? This is from your book, Rasa. In the last, I think, penultimate page, when you have finished the parikrama, you go and sit in your tent, and then you are focusing on your chakra there, and you feel that you are actually going through various layers, and it's a silvery kind of, is it the Sukshma Sharira of yours?
Yes. Shushma Sharira of yours. Greek and Latin. So, Shushma means subtle and Sharira means body. So he's saying, was that your subtle body or was it the physical body? It cannot. Obviously it's not the physical body. We all have our subtle, well, I can't prove it to you, but there you
I
are.
believe in it.
Huh?
I believe in it.
You were saying something? Yeah. Yourself, yes.
I was just wondering if you had any advice on someone you know passing away, how to deal with death.
No, this is not even meditation. It's a reality. It's very difficult to deal with someone who passes away, especially if you're attached to that person. It's not. I can tell you many things. You chant this or you forget. Life is temporary. Words, right? When someone dear to us passes away, then we realize it's not so easy to get out. So the only thing we can do is, one, we need to constantly remind ourselves that nobody stays on earth forever. Need to. And if you feel that you're emotionally attached to that person, the only way we can do is mentally to send some thoughts, good thoughts to that person, thinking maybe in some other form the person is alive. But I don't think one should overdo it, because every emotion that you would send that way, it becomes a bondage for the soul to be free. Leaving the body, the soul is trying to be free, and with every thought, emotionally, you're pulling it back. So you should think, let me do a good act, let the person be free. I know it's not easy, okay? I can say all this, but when it happens to me, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. Maybe I can see it go, but if I can't, then what happens? So, the only thing is also sympathize with other people to whom this has happened. Then you're sharing it. It's not just with you. You know the wonderful story of how when the Gautama Buddha was preaching somewhere, there was a lady who had only one son who died. So she brought the body and left it at Buddha's feet and said, please bring this back to life because that's all that I have in my life. Buddha said, okay, please go around the villages here and find out one house where nobody has died ever. And if you find such a place, bring me a mustard seed from there. So she looked around. There was no house where nobody had died. At some point, somebody had died. So she came back and said, I couldn't find the house. He said, that's nature. That's what life is. Today it's happened to you. Tomorrow, at this moment, it has happened to thousands of people. But since I'm only thinking of myself, right? It's okay. I'm just saying. So I only feel it. When I look at this whole picture, it's so insignificant. So the best way is to expand yourself and think of others. And I'm sorry, and what I think. I was very attached to my grandmother, I also had this problem when she passed. But then I didn't have a guide at that time. I was only 8 years old when she passed. And I said, now what to do? I mean, and all those stories at bedtime, special food, gone. So for some time I felt lost. Then I thought about it. Luckily what happened, 3 houses away, the neighbors, their grandmother died. So I said to myself, so all grandmothers died. Now why am I sitting here and thinking about one grandmother? So you know what I did? On the 4th day, I went to the other house. One of the boys was studying with me. I sat with him and sympathized with him. And then slowly, this went off from my heart. Nobody taught me, it just happened. So that's the only way one can work it out. Don't get into all these things about, I can contact them through the planchette and through the nonsense. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's the difference between Sri Vidya and Kriya Yoga?
Well, these technical questions. Kriya Yoga, let me explain first that Kriya Yoga is basically a method which includes a certain kind of pranayama, breathing, by which you are able to slowly uncondition yourself and deal with your energies and take them to subtler levels. This is Kriya. Now when I say Kriya, Kriya means a method. Simply it means a method. How to do something is called a Kriya. So therefore in the Yoga Shastra there are many Kriyas. Not only the Kriya which I talk about, there are many Kriyas. But when I say Kriya, it means that particular technique which has come down to us from a particular lineage. This is what I mean by Kriya when I say, but there must be other Kriyas. Definitely. There's no question about that. That's what I mean by Kriya. Now if you ask me the link, there need not be a link between Sri Vidya and Kriya. However, those who are studying Sri Vidya, if they also do Kriya, then you can link them together. There is no need actually. You can link them together. And Sri Vidya, to the uninitiated, is a system of chanting certain sounds which awaken the inner energies in the human system. There are certain sounds, and the Sri Vidya mantras do not have a meaning as such. They are more to do with acoustics, with the sounds inside. So there is the 15-letter mantra and the 16-letter mantra. When you start with the 3-letter, so these are all sounds which you need to learn from a teacher and begin to practice. There is no need that if you practice Sri Vidya, you should practice Kriya. There is no necessity that if you practice Kriya, you should practice Sri Vidya, but in some cases they are linked. Depends on the teacher. Depends.
I wonder if you have advice on My husband always says to me, you need to stop looking at the glass half empty. You need to be more positive. Do you have advice for that, changing that thinking so that positivity is more?
You know, I personally have nothing against empty also. Emptiness is great. Sorry. We have associated emptiness with something terrible. So if a glass is half empty, it's nice. Because if it's not empty, how will you fill it? So emptiness has been given a bad name. It's not like that. However, when people say if a glass is half full or half empty, they're talking about people who are always negative. Only look at the negative side and not look at the positive side. That's what they say, oh look, the glass is half full. But because the glass is half full, it is half empty. So there is actually no dichotomy between the two. Wherever there is emptiness, it's filled. Why is something filled? Because there is emptiness. So I think emptiness is a wonderful thing, but not in daily life situations. I always think this is empty, there's nothing. Emptiness is a great something. In fact, the Buddhists say the ultimate aim of nirvana is shunya. What is shunya? Zero. So, I think your husband must be a positive thinker, but I think you're not negative either.
Sometimes.
In daily life. But people always have this empty, darkness. Darkness is beautiful. In fact, the word used in Sanskrit for dark is Krishna. Krishna was dark. So, in Sanskrit, white is Shukla and black, dark is Krishna. So, let's not draw this line dividing things absolutely to black and white. There are many grey areas. In this world, there are many grey areas. And this system of something being absolutely evil and something absolutely good, like Satan and God, is a very Semitic idea. In the ancient Eastern Indian teachings, there are asuras and devas, but the Supreme Being is beyond. Now, there are some good asuras and there are some bad devas. What do you do? So there is no that line which separates it into two watertight compartments. Somebody may be good and bad and good. It's all a mixture. You know what I mean?
I think on YouTube I've heard you say to say the mantra Om Shri Guru Babaji.
Mm-hmm.
No?
No. Not me. Maybe somebody else. But I said Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. See, in
I couldn't hear it and I didn't know what that was.
Gurubhyo,
Byo.
Bhyo.
And what does Byo mean?
Gurubhyo doesn't
No
mean
meaning?
to the Guru. I bow down to the Guru. May the Guru accept my bowing down. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So, that is the mantra that we chant before we start practice of meditation. So I said, let me share it with others. So it's Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. However, when we chant the mantra, we also add another sound, which is Hrim. So Hrim is the sound of energy, to generate energy, Shakti. So Hrim, in English, if you write Hrim, it is H-R-E-E-M. Hrim. So when we are given the mantra, we chant it as Om Hrim Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. This is what I said on YouTube. You can chant it now that I have told you. Om Hrim Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. It's okay. Thank you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace is of the essence. Thank you.